There are moments that define a person's strength, and tonight, under the glare of blinding studio lights, one of those moments is taking shape. On this stage, Ivanka Trump leans back in her seat with the elegance of someone bred in the spotlight, poised, immaculate, and wearing the kind of practiced confidence that has become almost second nature to her. Across from her sits Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She isn't smiling. She isn't performing. She's simply present, eyes focused, posture grounded, radiating the quiet intensity of someone who didn't arrive by privilege but by perseverance, grit, and a refusal to blend into the background. Her presence isn't loud, but it's unmistakably powerful. The room hums with anticipation. Bright beams shoot down from above, bouncing off the polished desk at the center of the stage. Cameras glide in smooth arcs, capturing every shift of expression, every breath, every beat before the storm. Audience members sit forward, murmuring quietly, waiting for the moment this polite conversation inevitably erupts into something far more explosive. The host sits between the two women, clutching a stack of cards that suddenly feel flimsy in his trembling hands. His smile is stretched a little too wide, like he's trying to hold together a room he knows is seconds away from coming undone. Ladies, thank you both for being here tonight. His voice wavers only slightly. We're discussing some of the biggest challenges facing the country. But before we dive in, how has your week been so far? It's small talk, harmless, neutral, a buffer before impact. Ivanka nods first, offering a polished response about balancing family and responsibilities, an answer smooth enough to have been rehearsed backstage or delivered 100 times before. Then AOC speaks. Her tone is warmer but sharper in purpose. She talks about her district, about the people she serves, about the urgency behind bringing real stories to platforms like this. She doesn't hide behind platitudes. She doesn't soften her edges. She speaks directly, first to the host, then to Ivanka, and finally to the audience. Light claps ripple through the crowd. Nothing dramatic. But the difference between the two women is already clear. One embodies polished tradition, the other embodies raw authenticity. The calm won't last long. Because beneath the smiles and stage lights, something heavier is brewing. This isn't just a talk show, it's not a casual political panel. Tonight is a battleground disguised as a conversation. For Ivanka, this is a stage to affirm authority, family legacy, and status. For AOC, it is a chance to challenge exactly that. The audience doesn't know it yet, but they are sitting at the center of a collision. One that won't end with polite nods or gentle words. The host moves to the first real question. What do you see as the most urgent issue facing Americans right now? Ivanka answers first. Her tone is calculated, steady, sculpted. She speaks of stability, leadership, and responsibility with the precision of someone who has perfected the art of messaging. AOC answers next. Her voice is grounded and deliberate. She doesn't aim for perfection, she aims for truth. She talks about working families, marginalized voices, people pushed to the sidelines. She speaks not to perform, but to connect, and the contrast is immediate. Ivanka's poise versus AOC's conviction, a curated image versus lived experience, a legacy of power versus a fight to be heard. The air changes. The audience shifts. Even the host senses the invisible spark dancing between calm and confrontation. The polite facade is beginning to crack. It happens when Ivanka leans forward, abandoning the relaxed posture she maintained earlier. Her smile tightens into something sharper. Her body angles toward AOC with the subtle aggression of a blade being unsheathed. The host is mid-sentence when Ivanka cuts him off. Her tone drops its warmth. Her voice cools into something icy and dismissive, and then she says it, the line that freezes the studio. Why don't you first go to Puerto Rico and try to understand things there? Silence descends so fast and so completely, it feels like the entire room has stopped breathing. A few audience members trade looks, wide-eyed, stunned. Others let out quiet, disbelieving gasps. The host's pen slips from his fingers and clinks against the desk. This wasn't a policy jab. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't even subtle. It was a dismissal, a push to the margins, an insinuation that AOC is an outsider, that she doesn't belong at this table, that she must go back before she can speak here. Everyone knows what it meant. The silence grows heavier. It stretches and thickens until even Ivanka's smile starts to tremble under its weight. The camera cuts to AOC. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't roll her eyes. She doesn't even blink. She sits perfectly still, studying Ivanka with a level gaze that says more than words ever could. Her calm is disarming. It shifts the energy instantly, pulling the power away from Ivanka and placing it, slowly but unmistakably, in AOC's hands. For the first time tonight, Ivanka loses the room. The audience is no longer waiting for Ivanka's next line. They're waiting for AOC's, because everyone knows the moment Ivanka crossed a line, and everyone knows AOC will answer. but not yet. She allows the silence to stand, allows it to suffocate the remark, allows the cameras to zoom in on the tension tightening Ivanka's jaw. And in that stillness, without speaking a word, AOC already holds the power. The studio feels suspended in time. Ivanka's words hang in the air like smoke after a sudden spark, sharp, heavy, impossible to ignore. The audience shifts uneasily, unsure whether they should look at Ivanka or at AOC, but AOC doesn't give them any outward reaction. She waits. Her silence is deliberate, commanding, and unnervingly calm. Some audience members begin to wonder, is she stunned? Is she searching for the right comeback? Did the remark actually land? But AOC's stillness isn't uncertainty. It's strategy. The cameras lean in closer, capturing the intensity in her eyes, the measured rise and fall of her breath, the subtle tilt of her head. You can see she's not rattled, she's calculating, she's choosing her moment. Then, slowly, she leans forward, and the silence breaks. Her voice is soft, but every syllable cuts through the tension like a blade. So tell me, Ivanka, is Donald Trump your father or your husband? The reaction is instant. A wave of gasps ripples across the audience. A few people slap their palms over their mouths. Several others grip the armrests of their seats, staring at AOC as if she just pulled the pin on a grenade. The host's eyes fly open. His jaw moves, but no sound comes out. Ivanka's face freezes, her polished smile cracks, just for a split second, but the cameras catch it. Everyone catches it. AOC pauses, letting the weight of her words settle before she adds calmly, "Because the way you're projecting tonight, it feels like something's very misplaced." The silence that follows is different from before. The first silence belonged to Ivanka. This one belongs entirely to AOC, because everyone knows exactly what she's referencing, those old clips, those uncomfortable interviews, the moments that blurred lines in ways the public never forgot. Ivanka shifts in her seat. She forces a small, brittle laugh, trying to dismiss the moment. But the crack in her armor is visible now, small but undeniable. The audience sees it, the cameras see it, and AOC sees it most clearly of all. The power has changed hands. What Ivanka intended to use as a weapon has rebounded, slicing straight into the image she has worked tirelessly to maintain. Even the host senses it. His fingers tighten around his note cards as his eyes bounce nervously between the two women. But the show has slipped out of his control. The audience is glued to AOC, waiting, hoping she speaks again, wondering how far this moment will go, but she doesn't need to say anything more. The damage is done. AOC sits back, calm and composed, as if she didn't just detonate a line that flipped an entire room in under 15 seconds. Meanwhile, Ivanka sits frozen, caught between her instinct to defend herself and the crushing realization that anything she says now will only remind the audience of the very thing AOC pulled into the spotlight. The shift is unmistakable. The room, once on Ivanka's side, now leans toward AOC, drawn by her calm, her clarity, her fearless composure. Ivanka tries to salvage what she can. "Well," she begins, her voice wobbling just slightly, "all I'm saying is maybe she should go to Puerto Rico to better understand things." The line lands with a thud. Flat, hollow, defensive. The audience hears it, they feel it. They exchange looks, some shaking their heads, others sighing in disbelief. What once sounded cutting now feels desperate, an attempt to pull attention away from the question she refused to answer, but nothing can shift the moment back. AOC's question wasn't just a comeback, it was a spotlight, and once a spotlight is turned on, it is nearly impossible to dim. The host tries to steer the conversation towards safer ground, dragging the topic toward unity and leadership, but the room no longer belongs to him or to Ivanka. AOC has the stage now. Her calm presence, her composed silence, her razor-sharp timing, they've created something impossible to ignore. A turning point, a fracture in the power dynamic that can't be undone. And as the cameras sweep across the audience, capturing stunned faces and whispered conversations, it becomes clear. Everyone knows exactly whose moment this is. AOC isn't scrambling to reclaim her footing, Ivanka is, and the night is far from over. The studio air grows heavier, thick with a tension that even the cameras seem to pick up. Ivanka's composure, normally impenetrable, has begun to fracture under the weight of the moment. The audience is no longer watching a controlled exchange. They're watching a power struggle unravel in real time. AOC sits steady, composed, almost serene. Her silence now feels like the strongest voice in the room. Ivanka, in contrast, shifts in her seat. Her polished persona, a shield she has never once let slip on camera, is cracking. She tries again, attempting to redirect the conversation toward policy. talking about broad issues and leadership principles, but every word she speaks feels like a paddle fighting against a current too strong to overcome. No one is listening to her message, they're watching her struggle to regain authority, and the more she tries to steer the moment, the more she loses control of it. The host senses the shift too. His eyes dart nervously from Ivanka to AOC as he attempts another soft transition. "Let's talk about what unites us," he says, a hint of desperation slipping into his tone. "What do you believe Americans truly need right now?" But his efforts feel thin, almost hollow against the weight of what just happened. Everyone in the room knows the moment has already passed. This conversation is no longer about unity, it's about presence, image, respect. And right now, AOC holds all three. Ivanka attempts a faint smile, but the audience isn't responding. Their expressions show something closer to skepticism, even disappointment. Her earlier confidence has evaporated, replaced by something tense and uneasy. AOC, meanwhile, sits unbothered, chin slightly lifted, her calm becoming its own kind of spotlight. Then the host turns to AOC. "Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez," he says, softly, "how would you like to respond now?" It's more than a question, it's an invitation, a chance to either escalate the conflict or ground the conversation with purpose. AOC doesn't rush. She takes a breath, glances at the host, then at Ivanka, and finally toward the audience. When she speaks, her voice is steady. No anger, no defensiveness, just clarity. "Look," she begins, "Ivanka can say what she wants, but let's be honest with each other here. We are all Americans." The room stills, people lean forward, her words ring with conviction, but not aggression. "No matter what she tries to paint on this stage tonight, I stand here belonging to this country just as much as anyone else. I serve my community, I show up for the people who sent me here, and I'm not about to let anyone reduce me, dismiss me, or pretend I don't have the right to sit at this table." The room breaks into soft murmurs, agreement rippling through the crowd. Some nod, some clap lightly, a few let out low, supportive cheers. AOC continues, her tone deepening. "This isn't about going somewhere else to understand America. My roots are here, my people are here, my story, our story is built into the fabric of this nation, and none of us should ever feel like guests in our own home." The audience responds louder this time. Applause slowly builds, steady, rising, heartfelt. The energy has shifted completely. AOC doesn't raise her voice, doesn't insult, and doesn't gloat. She simply speaks truth with a calm strength that resonates through every row of seats. Ivanka sits frozen. The applause grows louder, filling the studio, washing over the moment like a wave. For a split second, Ivanka's eyes flicker downward, her facade weakening under the cheers for AOC. The dynamic she once commanded is slipping further away. AOC leans forward slightly, her voice low but powerful. "This stage, this conversation, this nation, they belong to all of us, not because of last names, not because of privilege, but because we are Americans, every single one of us." The applause snaps into full force now. Several people stand. The host tries to speak, but the noise overtakes him. Even he knows the moment belongs entirely to AOC. She doesn't smile triumphantly. She doesn't gesture dramatically. She simply sits back, composed and dignified, letting her words speak for her. And that is the brilliance of it. Ivanka tried to dismiss her, but AOC didn't just defend herself. She reframed the entire conversation. She rose above it, and she changed the room. The cameras sweep across the audience, capturing faces full of thought, admiration, reflection. People aren't just witnessing a debate anymore. They're watching a moment about identity, power, and belonging. And as the host finally regains control, the truth is undeniable. AOC has shifted the energy of the room so completely that Ivanka's polished image now feels small, almost fragile beside her. But the confrontation is far from over. The applause finally begins to fade, but the aftershock still hums through the studio like electricity. The room has shifted, dramatically, and everyone knows it. AOC's calm conviction has struck a chord so deep that the air feels different, charged with a new understanding of who holds the moment now. Ivanka sits rigidly, her posture perfect, but her expression strained. She forces another small laugh, the kind someone gives when they want to pretend nothing is wrong, but the audience doesn't buy it. The polished image she walked in with has taken several visible hits, and she feels it. The host clears his throat, trying to restore neutrality. "All right," he says, voice thin. Let's continue the conversation." But the audience isn't fully back with him. Their eyes remain fixed on AOC. Ivanka tries again to recover. She straightens her shoulders, lifts her chin, and attempts to slip back into the cool authority she wielded earlier in the night. "Look," she begins, "all I'm saying is that maybe AOC should go to Puerto Rico to understand things better." The line drops flat. There's no gasp this time, no shock, just disbelief. and disappointment. What was once sharp now feels like a dull echo, a weak attempt to steer attention away from the question she never answered. The audience murmurs, shaking their heads, arms fold across chests, a few eyebrows lift in silent judgment. Ivanka's tone no longer lands as confident, it lands defensive. And the contrast is devastating, because where Ivanka's remarks echo hollowly, AOC's words still linger like a weight the room can't shake. Even the host senses the failing momentum. He quickly tries to guide things toward a broader discussion, asking about leadership and shared values, hoping to smooth over the jagged edges of the night. But everyone knows the conversation has already left the rails. The tension isn't about policy anymore. It's about perception, presence, power, and Ivanka is losing her grip on all three. AOC, meanwhile, sits calm and collected, shoulders relaxed, gaze steady. She hasn't said another word, but she doesn't need to. Her silence has become a force of its own. The host, voice soft and cautious now, turns back to her once again. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, would you like to add anything? Before AOC responds, before the moment moves forward, there's a small, natural opening, one that moves with the rhythm of the scene. And here is where the first engagement trigger belongs. Quiet, soft, and blended so deeply into narration, it feels organic. Before we continue, if this shift in the room surprised you, type truth in the comments. Moments like this reveal so much about power and perception. Then AOC finally speaks. Her voice arrives steady, neither rising nor cracking, but carrying the unmistakable weight of sincerity. You know, it's interesting, she says slowly. Some people want to define you by where they think you belong, not by what you've done, not by the people you serve, not by how hard you fight for your community. The audience grows quiet again, listening. But I'm not here tonight because of where someone thinks I should go. I'm here because my constituents sent me. I'm here because I earned this seat. I'm here because this is my country too. The crowd murmurs in agreement, heads nod. A soft wave of claps ripples through the room. AOC continues, her voice sharpening, not in volume but in precision. And no one, no matter their background, no matter their last name, gets to decide that I don't belong here. I won't let that happen to me, and I won't let that happen to the millions of Americans who've been told the same thing. The applause intensifies, not wild but strong, firm, supportive. Ivanka's face tightens, her practiced poise is crumbling at the edges. And for the first time, her expression reveals something close to vulnerability, something she clearly doesn't want the cameras to catch. The energy of the room belongs entirely to AOC now. The undercurrent of respect flowing toward her is impossible to ignore. The host glances between the two women, unsure how to proceed. He senses Ivanka's slipping control, but he can't stop the audience from reacting naturally. He can't force a shift that simply isn't there. For a moment, the studio feels like a courtroom, not a stage, and AOC has just delivered an argument so clean, so clear, that the verdict is practically written across every face in the room. And Ivanka, for the first time all evening, sits in silence she cannot command. She is no longer the center of gravity. The conversation has moved on without her, and AOC is the one everyone is waiting to hear next. The studio feels like it's holding its breath, not because of what Ivanka has just said, but because of what she hasn't said. Her attempts to regain control have fallen flat, each one sounding weaker than the last, and the audience knows it. The host attempts to press forward, but even he seems rattled. His voice trembles ever so slightly as he asks his next question, hoping to pull the evening back into neutral territory. So let's shift a bit. Let's talk about unity and leadership in America today. But the words barely land. His question is swallowed by the tension in the room, because the energy is no longer neutral. It's not even close. AOC sits with her hands folded calmly in front of her, her gaze steady on the host, then Ivanka, then the audience. She doesn't look triumphant, she doesn't look angry, she looks grounded, rooted in something deeper than the moment. Ivanka, on the other hand, looks visibly shaken. Her smile flickers like a flame struggling in heavy wind. Her eyes dart to the audience, searching for the support she once commanded with ease. But that support is gone. It belongs to someone else now. And the entire room knows it. The host leans in slightly, almost whispering, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, would you like to respond? AOC breathes in slowly, and in that inhale, the entire audience leans forward, drawn to the gravity of her presence. She begins softly, you know, moments like this tell us something important about this country. The studio goes silent again. Some people think leadership is about image, about how well you perform under lights or how perfect your posture is. But leadership, real leadership, is about who you stand with when things get uncomfortable. Her eyes drift toward Ivanka, not with hostility, but with a controlled, unflinching sincerity. It's about respecting the voices at this table, even when they don't look like yours, sound like yours, or come from the same upbringing as yours. The audience murmurs, agreement, reflection, understanding. AOC continues, and I won't apologize for bringing the experiences of my community into rooms where they've been ignored for far too long. The crowd claps again, firm, resonant, carrying an emotional truth the room can't deny. AOC's voice deepens just slightly. I belong here, not because of privilege, but because people voted me here, because democracy put me here. That's the part some people forget. Ivanka's jaw tightens, another crack in her facade. AOC doesn't push further. She doesn't gloat. She simply lets the truth settle. And before the host can transition, the natural rhythm of the moment creates another perfect opening, this time for the second engagement trigger. Before we continue, where are you watching from? I'm always amazed how far these conversations travel. Drop your location in the comments. The audience in the studio doesn't hear that line, but the viewers at home feel directly invited in, pulled closer to the moment. AOC returns her focus to the table. We talk about unity, she says, but unity doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean ignoring the wounds of a nation. It means facing them together, even when it's uncomfortable. The applause is immediate. Stronger this time, louder, more certain. Ivanka freezes. She has no immediate comeback, and for the first time all evening she looks small against the wave of energy flowing toward AOC. The host glances hesitantly in Ivanka's direction. Ivanka, would you like to respond? She inhales sharply, steadying her voice. She tries to reclaim her usual composure, but the confidence she came in with is nowhere to be found. Whatever she says next, it won't be remembered. The night has already crowned its defining moment. I just think maybe she's being a little dramatic, Ivanka says weakly. I didn't mean anything personal, but the audience doesn't move. No applause, no nods, only silence. And in that silence, the contrast is unmistakable. AOC's truth versus Ivanka's retreat. AOC's clarity versus Ivanka's deflection. AOC's presence versus Ivanka's fading spotlight. It's not just a conversation anymore. It's a shift in power, visible, irrefutable, unfolding in real time, and everyone can feel it. The studio feels like a storm has passed, yet the air is still charged, still heavy, as if the walls themselves are processing everything they've just witnessed. The tension isn't gone completely, but it has unmistakably changed shape. Ivanka sits rigid, her polished demeanor now a thin shell barely holding together. She forces a smile, but it trembles at the corners. Her attempt to regain control has failed. It isn't subtle. It isn't debatable. It's visible in every hesitant breath she takes, every confused glance she casts toward the audience. Because the audience is no longer with her, they're with AOC. The host clears his throat again. His tone is low, almost tentative, as if he's afraid another spark might reignite the fire of the last few moments. Let's bring this to a close, he says quietly. We've had a heated conversation tonight, but perhaps we can end on what brings us together. But it's too late for a smooth landing. Everyone knows what tonight was really about. Not unity, not broad issues, not polite exchanges under studio lights. It was about presence, identity, respect, and who holds the floor when the moment turns heavy. AOC sits calm, her hands folded in front of her. The applause she received hasn't inflated her expression. She remains grounded, still, steady. Her silence alone carries more weight than anything Ivanka says next. Ivanka takes a breath, trying one last time to pull the stage back toward her. Well, she says, voice forced into a tone that's meant to sound strong, I just think we need to be careful about how we talk about America. We all want what's best. But the line falls flat. The audience barely reacts. Her words feel detached, distant, almost irrelevant compared to the emotional power that has already swept the room. AOC looks at Ivanka, direct, composed, unmoved, and then she speaks with a clarity that slices cleanly through the silence. No one is questioning wanting what's best. What I'm questioning is who gets to decide who belongs in that conversation. The room stills, and I'm not going to let anyone on or off this stage tell me that I need to go somewhere else to understand my own country. A final ripple of applause rises, slow at first, then building, then cresting into a wave of approval that fills every corner of the studio. It's not frenzied. It's not chaotic. It's resolute. AOC doesn't smile triumphantly. She doesn't gloat. She simply sits back, letting the truth settle on its own power. Ivanka lowers her gaze, just for a moment, but the cameras catch it. That tiny drop of her eyes tells the entire story. Her control slipped, and she couldn't pull it back. The host lifts his cards, exhaling softly as if relieved that the end is finally near. Thank you both, he says, his voice steadier now. This has been an intense discussion, but an important one. AOC nods respectfully. Ivanka nods as well, but the gesture feels mechanical, more for optics than conviction. The host begins his closing line for the program, but before the final cut, the camera pans across the audience, capturing something deeper than applause or shock. It captures reflection, understanding, and a quiet acknowledgement of the moment they just witnessed. Because this wasn't just a televised conversation. This was a shift, a rebalancing of power, a reclamation of presence. A reminder that belonging isn't handed down, it's earned, demanded, and defended. AOC stands as the applause continues, thanking the host with a calm, warm expression. The crowd responds with another burst of appreciation. Ivanka rises too, but the difference in the room is unmistakable. One woman stands with the momentum of the night behind her. The other stands hoping the cameras will be kind enough to forget the moment she lost control. The scene fades with the weight of truth hanging unmistakably in the air. AOC didn't just hold her ground tonight, she claimed it. And she reminded everyone in the room and everyone watching that America belongs to all of us, not just the people who think they can decide who sits at the table. As the lights dim and the credits prepare to roll, the final engagement trigger blends in naturally. Before we close, comment your thoughts below. I read every single one, and I want to know what part hit you the hardest tonight. The final shot lingers on AOC, still calm, still steady, still unshaken. The message is clear. This wasn't a debate, it was a moment, and AOC owned it. Thank you so much for watching and staying with this story until the end. Moments like this reveal so much about truth, courage, and the power of standing firm when it matters most. If this resonated with you, please take a moment to like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and share this video so more people can join the conversation. Your voice matters here. Your thoughts help shape the next story.